Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales, wherever in the world you are today. Welcome to episode 13 of yWeb3, your portal to exciting and ever-changing, cutting-edge, and emerging technologies. In this episode, we're going to be talking through the latest tech developments, from significant strides in cryptocurrencies, like the advancements in Bitcoin spot ETFs, and a game-changing U.S. court mandate for a vital application, to the World Bank's groundbreaking entry into digital bond market. We've got it all covered. Let's go through and explore some of these new laws, make it easier to that are going to make it easier to catch crypto crooks, and really the revival of some crypto lending platforms, and really an exciting collaboration between some major financial players and forward-thinking payment apps in the Web3 space. Join us today. It is October 26th. Bitcoin has had its pump. We're up at 34,000 and change. The U.S. Fed is still sitting at a solid 5.5, and the NASDAQ is down at 12,690, about 1,000 points from last week. I've got two amazing guests with me today. Adam, if you don't mind giving a quick introduction, great to see you again, sir.
Hi, Adam Jones. Thanks for having us back. Adam Jones, Token Events. What we have built is a fan engagement platform that not only solves all the issues that you see in ticketing, but we have basically owned the path for the complete cycle of taking data, tokenizing that data, and then turning that into a reward for the fan. And the name of that asset is $fan. Very straightforward. We've are on the fast track with the USPTO for all of our patenting, which basically provides not only leverage for us against all these other people in the markets, in the live event space, streaming space, and in the venue space to overtake that tokenization of data. But we're also building out the platforms and the tooling for not only a live event venue, but for streaming to be able to use it as middleware. In the interesting outcome, the convergence of AI with what we're doing, we were always focused on getting the appropriate data from the user and rewarding them for that. And by doing so, the output is a large data union in which an AI company can use. And we've had a lot of strides in our revenue generation with events here in Chicago, Barcelona, and some events we've done with sports teams. And we're now on the precipice of a breakout now that we see the market interest and there is a need for this and everybody wants to participate.
Fabulous. Awesome, man. And I love the project and excited to have you back.
Thank you.
Josh, nice to meet you for the first time, sir.
Yeah, hey, great to be on, Jay. So Josh Cowell, British, and actually conveniently in London today. I'm not always here, typical London grey weather. So yeah, hi everyone. So where to begin? Really, you can think of what I've done in two halves. So I had a fairly reasonable stint in TradFi, traditional finance, for close to 8 years. So I was in enterprise risk modeling, essentially having a quant role, so modeling risk-based pricing for loans, and the most relatable parts what I do now is I was trying to put in provisioning models to stop another financial crisis happening. So I worked for 8 years putting in remediation models so that banks could comply with standards to try and stop what happened in 2008 happening. But then in parallel to those 8 years, this is now the 13th year when I've been involved in blockchain and then cryptocurrency. So that technology applied to currency. So 2 years ago, I stopped my stint in traditional finance and set up Exco with some other persons. And I fulfill the head of product role there. So I'm very much a builder, a thoughts person. How can we actually bring crypto to the masses? So in a nutshell, that's beyond the speculation, beyond trading, beyond staking. It's, okay, how do we actually use this stuff for day-to-day payments? Because what crypto promised was this peer-to-peer cash, not just the assets themselves, but the infrastructure. And from being on the sidelines when I was sat there in my TradFi role, I kind of thought, no one's really doing this correctly. You know, there's always kind of this gold rush where us as human beings, a lot of us are greedy, and we go, hey, we can make money on that. So there's high margin in trading, there's high profit in high risk products. So those are what came to market first. But in terms of what regular people, regular Joes, as you guys might say, what they don't use those high risk products day to day, right? A lot of people, even if they go beyond trading to borrowing, all they will do is get a mortgage. That might be the hardest thing they ever do, and they spend most of their life paying that off. No one's trading. Anyway, we get on to that a bit later. So with Exco, it's all about, let's bring this new financial infrastructure to the world with meaningful products, low risk products. It's better for the user. It's easier for a business. The narrative that's been sold to people to make profit off these speculative products is ending anyway. So part Trafi, a big part crypto, smash that together with everyone else who's on me on this huge expedition, you get Exco.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I refer to this as blockchain-based finance. It's traditional rules and regulations of TradFi, but a different underlying tech stack than what we've been able to do. And that opens up a whole new world of transparency and usability. So love that concept. Thank you guys both. And let's just dive right into some news. It's been a very long, cold winter, meaning that, we kind of started with the Luna meltdown. And that kind of pushed, the crypto boom, took a lot of the wind out of our sails. From there, we kind of saw a number of mild implosions, and we had hey, Sam and CZ like kind of just backstood a lot of the issues around the industry, and we go, great, this is fabulous, and then the poster boy of one of the poster boys of crypto, which was Sam Bankman, turned out to be a massive fraud and huckster, and I think he's on trial today. In this entire issue. Somebody actually pointed out, it's pretty funny, we're not going to talk about Sam too much, but somebody actually pointed out, had he not filed bankruptcy and turned everything over, he almost may have been solvent today, with the booms coming back and the spots coming through. So he clearly was doing some very bad things. There's been a number of people testifying, so I'm not defending him. There's a lot of people that lost a lot of money. I'm sure we all on this call have encountered that. But in the same sense, that really ushered in, the crypto winter. Once FTX went down, there's no trust. Is Binance going next? Is Tether going to be the Black Swan event? And there's been a number of implosions and issues, around the horn. And so for those of us that are in the space, that are in it for the long haul, and have been around for a few years, Josh, you've been around a long time, and Adam, you as well. We just kind of hunker down. You shed a little staff.
It's the fourth cycle, essentially, for people in my shoes and similar shoes. Not to say, we're very comfortable. We've seen this all before. I mean, as you say, when the FTX implosion happened, I was actually conveniently in London at the time. Again, we had token 2049 London. I was rushing back home, and I was looking at Coin360 on a big screen, red everywhere, thinking, right, what do we do as a business? What do I do personally? What are the implications in terms of the public perceiving this? It doesn't make it any easier. But what I will say is, it's good that I'm going to use the term bad actors, that's kind of stopping. We're getting more of a rule set in place, because I don't think it's necessarily the technology or the assets that are the problem. It's the entity and the people in control, because there is going to be this period where we have to transition, say, from TradFi to, let's call it DeFi. There's a transition period, which even if we need an on and off ramp, there's far more to it in terms of crypto projects. But even if you just do that, people have to migrate.
And I think what we're really seeing is the adults showing up in the room. The technology was very novel, and I don't think at this point, and Adam, love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't think we have a technology issue at this point.
No,
I think we have a little bit of rules, regulations, and understanding what the game actually is, and I think it's an education issue more than anything else at this point, because the chains are solid. The encryption is mathematically as perfect as you're going to get. We come down to what should we be using the technology for? Is it JPEG marquees, or is it tokenizing, mortgage-backed securities? Like which one has the best use case and most, value to the real world?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. What you see is finally, I mean, again, kind of to piggyback on what Josh said, it's a Band-Aid rip. I mean, it hurts right now in the moment, but for folks like ourselves who are trying to build Web3 for mass consumption and ease, I look at this the same way when you do a corporate restructuring and you have a corporate change management come in, and like you have to like reposition the zeitgeist of everyone to understand why this is a good idea or what are the benefits of this. And so really what I see happening is it's like any like basic human thing, right? It's like manifest destination. It's like people are out there on the prairie doing their thing, and over time stuff gets reined in. And the way that I see this is if you are positioning your business, your company, and your mind into shifting the zeitgeist into a better future, I believe that to be what's going to win out in the the years to come. I don't see this stuff necessarily as a negative moment. I look at it a lot like some of the things that happen in all culture when something's new and novel. You get people that take the opportunity, and with those opportunities, they can either choose to do the right thing or, they have to go to court. So what our goal in all of this has been, it's how do you bring Web3 to a user that's a little scared of it because of stuff like this. And in Web3 and in actually tokenization of data for actually earning some money, or earning not money, but earning that crypto for your data, we truly believe that thesis in helping people see that like, oh, this can be safe. You can do this the right way, and I can be rewarded for my effort. And doing it all above board will win out. And some of these other things, there are moments in time that actually shape the future, and I'm okay with that for now. But we all do need to, I feel from our seats, move forward in a very smart, above board way to like, let's actually be the change managers of the zeitgeist shift.
Adam, absolutely love those concepts and insights. So, Josh, pivoting over, you've been through the cycle many times. Bitcoin has endured everything because Bitcoin doesn't care. There's no major changes. It's proof of work. It does what it does. The mining has been set out from years ago, over a decade ago, how it's going to operate in there. And so we're now seeing the first, kind of breath of life, the first, kind of pulse back into the patient, after everyone has said crypto is dead, Bitcoin is dead, it's over, no one's ever going to trust it again. It turns out that what institutions actually wanted, is they don't want to hold it themselves. Is that they just want to be able to buy it on traditional markets. They want the entire TradFi institution to wrap Bitcoin in a very traditional financial vehicle, such as a spot ETF. So, and the way that we know that there's interest is there was a rumor that one got approved. I think there's about nine or 10 that are right now up for application with the SEC. There was a rumor that one got approved, and Bitcoin shot up, like 10 to 15% within the 8 minutes before that was debunked. And then the next thing that we just had was somebody spotted the ETF ticker on one of the clearing houses, which is generally something that happens right before it gets approved, and it's shot up again. So we've gone from 60,000 all the way down to 16,000. We're right now around 34,000. And I just find it amazing how much more interested people are in $34,000 Bitcoin than they were in $16,000 Bitcoin.
Well, because it's momentum, right? They're interested because it's human nature, right? They're like, oh, shiny object, it moved. And so now it's like, I'm in because I believe, right? It's the whole mechanism and like kind of like what I was talking about the zeitgeist earlier, right? It's like the shiny object just moved. I need to get to that shiny object as fast as possible. Plus, I also have a vibe in the back of my mind that like there are probably conversations that we aren't privy to amongst some of these larger players as to the future of this. So that's kind of where I see when you start to see people shift or talking more or diving in, it's because there are people having some pretty pragmatic conversations about why this is a good vehicle.
Really amazing insights, Adam. Josh, it just seems like we've been here before. The cycle keeps repeating itself. Does this feel familiar to you?
Yeah, so it's it does feel familiar, and there is sort of meme to these cycles where they say, "Oh, this time it's different." There's always something new that's basically pushing the cycle. Sort of cycle one, we had the cypherpunks, which were the clever people creating this stuff. Oh, look, we can do it. It's awesome. Cycle two, the libertarians. Hey, it's freedom of money. Cycle three was speculators. 2017 onwards, and now it's kind of the global stage, the institutional stage, if you wish, for which an ETF fits hand in hand with that sort of narrative, if that's what we're talking about. And like you were saying, Jay, an ETF is important because it will allow, institutional capital like pension funds, etc., to have Bitcoin as part of their portfolio. Because today, most large funds can't hold custody of Bitcoin due to compliance issues. And further to that, financial advisors can't recommend them as investments either due to fiduciary duty and all of that. So an ETF allows for a controlled market so that it could be an advisable investment. These institutions can hold it on their balance sheets. All these theoretically entities on the sidelines can now get in. And I think it was Galaxy Digital just last week. They did a report that was saying that they expect close to 14 billion to flow in from these avenues in the first year. And I don't like to speculate on price, but they also say it would lead to a 75% increase in the price of a Bitcoin, which for an asset that already has hundreds of billions in terms of market cap, that is significant. This is a big move. This is another really, really important cycle for cryptocurrency in general. And Bitcoin doesn't care about politics, the geopolitics, etc. We'll just have to see what happens.
I think it's going to be really interesting because the TradFi experts are all scrambling right now. I mean, I've taken dozens of calls, and one of the things that we always focus on yWhales is education. For which we talked about earlier. And I think what's really interesting is that blockchain has done so many amazing things, and one of the key metrics that we always say is not your keys, not your crypto, because time and time again that's the biggest failure is that it's designed for self-custody. You should self-custody, but people aren't good at it. And let's be clear, even the most advanced of us, it terrifies me. I hate it. I think it's I don't mind paying a bank or paying an institution to have these, because there is no central authority that can reissue your Bitcoin if it gets stolen. You can say, look, it clearly was stolen. It clearly happened. And again, Bitcoin, there's no one to control Bitcoin to, reissue that title to your car or to help you out with these things. And so the ETFs solve a little bit of that problem. And I think it's one of the failures that of the industry is that we've never solved the custody problem past hey, it's fine. Here's a single layer wallet, 12 to 24 keys, here's a little plastic jump drive thing that theoretically can help you. Now there are large institutional solutions like Fireblocks. I think they do an amazing job. But you're talking $60,000, $70,000 a year. And it's incredibly complicated to use. So I love Fireblocks. I just saw them out in Money 2020. Had a long conversation about how the roadmap's going, but buying an ETF means it's insured. Someone else is dealing with it. The SEC is overseeing it, but it is clearly, not your Bitcoin. You may own it, from a piece of paper standpoint, but there's no uses. There's no one's going to use the Bitcoin. It's just going to be locked off in a vault somewhere. And I think that's, my question to pivot back to the both of you two. Are we excited about the pump, but loss of innovation, or do we feel that it's mitigatable? No big deal. What do you think? What do you think, Josh?
Yeah. Happy to take this one. So in terms of addressing what you tailed off with in terms of the pump, I mean, look, it's what I think this shows is Bitcoin is kind of the ultimate free market asset. So decentralization of the protocol matters just as much as it is, not your keys, not your crypto, etc. So I think if there is a centralized element to it, the entities dealing with them should be regulated. Again, it's not the question of the technology, it's about the people that are using it. And like you're saying, people should have options. It should be, hey, look, if you want to use someone else to look after, have that insurance, let's say, do it. And of course, there'll be a price for that. You're getting a service from someone, right?
Yep.
But then also, if you want to go, the true crypto utopian way, your keys, your crypto, etc., you can. But yeah, there is this issue in terms of education. I actually think there's enough education material out there that it's all over the internet. If you want to learn, you can, but there is a technical hurdle to overcome. This isn't, fourth grade 1 + 1 = this. This is difficult stuff to understand. And I've used Fireblocks or the MPC. I've done all their workshops. I've been to their Spark events, and I programmed for over 10 years, and I had to concentrate. It's difficult.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, sure. But it's in terms of, let's say, the pump, it's interesting because we haven't had risk on in tech recently. This is a risk-off environment, yet in a space of time going from 25K to 34K, it's gone up 40% in a risk-off environment. Has this decoupled? It's looking like it. But the other thing to think about is, Warren Buffett's famous quote that I can't remember about, most of the hardcore investors, they do the opposite of what the herd does. So that's kind of what we're seeing, I think. Now, crypto is not in the good books for laymen, most people. Yet, this, an ETF coming into place is a stamp of validity in some sense. So it will happen. But in the traditional economy, we've got 33 trillion US debt for you guys, 500 billion in the past year, 2 proxy wars going on, awful stuff, I know. But you have to, if you're raising national debt, you have to inflate that away. So loose monetary policy, tech's not risk on, yet an ETF is possibly on the horizon, and it's an increase in 40%. This is different. This hasn't happened before.
Yeah, it definitely, it's a very different financial situation globally than anyone else. The world is in a much worse place than it was, 3+ years ago, pre-COVID, if we want to go back to there. Mm-hmm. COVID, there was, a lot of good recovery. That was when the last pump started. But now kind of the pipers, wanting to be paid. And so we're kind of, the debts are all coming due. And so we're seeing people, this flight, I think, BlackRock CEO said, Bitcoin is a flight to quality. And that's a very strong statement to make. Adam, you probably get the same calls that I do, and Josh, you probably get these as well. I took a call literally just yesterday from a family office in a panic that they want to purchase $100 million of Bitcoin. Okay. Fine, no big deal. We on this call, all of us can make a few calls. We can facilitate that. That's finding approximately 3,000 Bitcoin is not the problem. My question to them is, where are you going to store it? What are you going to do with it? Like we can find you the Bitcoin, but what are you going to do? And they literally was a pause, going, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, Adam. It's the education around this is like, cool, that's a great asset. I'm hearing that we want it. We have way too much, fiat dollars. Bitcoin sounds good, but nobody understands what the hell it is. And they're trying to get ahead of these ETFs now. And it's not something you just can, store at a bank.
Right. And that's kind of our position, where we're at the top of the funnel, where we're almost, our application and our business is bringing people that may not understand this into the fold by their user behavior and their actions, right? So the idea here is, on our end, let's bring the general masses up to speed at what crypto can do and will do. And to your point, people showing up being like, we want to buy all this Bitcoin, and then they're like, I don't even know where I'm going to store it. That means that there's still education or global change management to get people up to speed. How do you get people up to speed? Get them practically using it and seeing the power of how this works and how Web3 works. And then give them solutions that, like we have a non-custodial wallet baked into the application, and you can also add your custodial wallet. But you don't get people knowing how to use these things without actually getting them to see it and unlock it. And the other thing Warren Buffett always said was, I only invest in things I understand. And that's kind of like his mantra, right? And the other side of that coin is, how do you do that? You have to build things so people understand it. That's how Amazon did it, right? They took broken e-commerce and built better e-commerce. And the outcomes of that were a bunch of technical advancements in cloud computing. You don't get there unless you do the innovation work to shift the zeitgeist.
Yeah. No, that's fabulous. So shifting over to one of the next stories, obviously there's going to be a lot of these. Grayscale, which is, they have an ETF, but it wasn't a spot ETF, meaning it was just kind of a general, fund of Bitcoin. They've got probably one of the largest pools of Bitcoin, I think, anywhere on the planet at this point, a couple 100,000 Bitcoin, if I recall correctly. Josh, you coming from the TradFi world, are we just going to see everyone just, Bitcoin's just going to turn into this kind of, commodity gold type asset that people just kind of, tuck away under their pillow per se? Because there's no uses if it's under a spot ETF. You're not going to be able to spend it. You're not going to be able to use it. It just turns into like a savings account.
Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of two big ideas that are thrown out there. There's this Bitcoin as a store of value, similar to gold, and then there's this idea of peer-to-peer cash, payment system, et cetera, et cetera. And some persons would say, okay, when one narrative isn't working, we just try and make the other one fit. But they're actually not mutually exclusive, right? Gold is rare and it's heavy. You can't pay with it. It's a big block. You can't go down to this supermarket and start cutting it off and everything. The great thing about Bitcoin is, okay, it promised to be electronic cash, but if that never happens, it's still a great store of value because, we used to have the dollar backed by gold. It just made, proxy the value to gold, but it's paper. You can go and pay for it. Well, Bitcoin has the scarcity aspect, which is basically like digital gold, and similar to the flight to quality that the Larry Fink was talking about. The U.S. government can issue bond after bond after bond in infinite, but there's only 21 million Bitcoins. So similar to gold, there's a limited supply. So look, it has that scarcity. It can act like a store of value, but it's divisible to a ton of zeros. So you can go say you can spend 1 Satoshi, 2 Satoshis, and you can spend it fast. It's electronic, just like paper fiat currency. So it actually does both. So the use case there for peer-to-peer cash is there. The use case for store of value is there. You can do both. They're not mutually exclusive, if that makes sense. But again, people don't understand. It's very difficult to understand this stuff. They go, what the hell is a Bitcoin?
I do this every day, and I still have, questions that I'm constantly searching for. Okay, we're putting these in spot ETFs. Are they wrapped? Are they native? Like, where are these? And I think that the entire concept, to me, the two biggest issues we have right now in Web3 is bridges and wallets. The entire concept of wrapping has not done well. And wallets were clearly seeing that, if it was easy to store this and it was easy, I don't think that the spot ETFs would be near as popular. If it was something that you can manage quickly and be able to disclose to your accountants and federal regulators. So there's clearly, a lot of compliance issues that people want to have. I think what's really interesting and kind of pivoting the conversation a little bit is we're seeing, with the rise of Bitcoin, a lot of these big institutions around cryptocurrencies like BlockFi now reemerging from bankruptcy. They were underwater, when Bitcoin was, under 25,000, like they were insolvent. There was nothing there. And in BlockFi's case, all they had to do was just hold on long enough. And, Three Arrows Capital, unfortunately, they invested in a lot of JPEGs that will never come back. But for BlockFi, they were focused on ETH, and they were focused, on cryptocurrencies that have, real world use case like Ethereum, and Bitcoin. And so now that we've seen that tide starting to rise, they're becoming solvent again. Adam, are you kind of excited to see the return of a few of these guys?
Yeah. It's kind of like we all go rise with the tide, right? As we see everybody being able to weather this storm, it kind of proves the thesis that this is going to be around, right? I mean, as hard as everybody keeps coming at the space just keeps coming back. So in a weird way, it pretty much proves our thesis that, it will work for, just past the trading. It'll work just past like everything else going on in the finance world, that it actually has core real world value for your average user. And when you see the institutions kind of go through these growing pains, or when you see the space go through these growing pains, it all of these like ups and downs bring it to light. And actually the sunshine is the best disinfectant, right? So we start to see where, we're going for the future. And I think that, regardless of what everybody wants to say and decentralization and things like that, humans are going to human. There's going to be guardrails or third rails in every situation. I don't see that going away. I just feel that that's just a part of life. But the fact that people are able to weather these storms is very strong in our position and my point of view as to why this is going to actually shake out for a better future, right? Because this is where we're heading. 100 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, they're going to see the value, right? And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's clearly a new market, so, Josh, again, I always kind of, circling back, like it's starting to feel like TradFi is going to win. Like, in the battle versus TradFi versus DeFi, it seems like the needle is pointing more towards people want traditional finance rules and regulations more than they want, to kind of trust internet, anonymous degens. And there's a mix of in between the both of those two, but it seems like that's kind of the flight backwards.
Yeah, I was going to add a slightly different take there, actually. So if it's not too controversial, so
no, please, let's go.
My domain is primarily retail. As a crypto business, obviously we do offer B2B services, etc. We can. We do a lot of that. But another topic for discussion another time. I do a lot of work with ENS and people like that because I'm building a payments infrastructure, ID system, so people can use it day to day, etc. And again, make it easier to understand using Web2 behaviors, how to use crypto, using addresses properly, having essentially IBANs, you can get your salary paid into, virtual card payments, QR codes, all of this stuff is what I do. But we were focusing on institutions there. But I think this is a very interesting time for, let's say, humanity, because retail now has an asset class that it can be involved in, just like the institutions, right? And collectively, they are huge. So if we saw, actually, I forget how long ago it is, but we had, the meme stocks. We had like GameStop, and it was basically the internet versus TradFi, right?
Yep.
So then you have the internet, say crypto, Twitter, very interesting people there coming up against TradFi and fighting. But now on Wall Street, there's not much IPO activity. There's not much M&A happening. Wall Street is looking for something to be involved in where they can be influential. This could potentially be the first time that you have, say, the internet, crypto, Twitter, et al., and Wall Street sitting at the same lunch table at the cafeteria going, right, we're playing the same game now.
Yep.
So it's not just all about institutions. You've got say people that don't fall in those two categories, maybe looking towards traditional financial regulation, similar products, etc. But the crypto native and crypto curious retail market is a beast in itself. And yeah, as I said before, we saw sort of tremors of what happened with GameStop, etc. Let's see what happens with crypto once institutions do go, not just one toe in the water, they go full force.
Yeah, and I completely agree. The GameStop, and I played with that. I had a great time with it. But the problem was you were never going to win because you don't know what the rules of the game are behind the scenes. There is, double, triple counting. There was more, like all the issues that blockchain was supposed to solve was exactly why GameStop was never going to win, is because they could always just, move some paper around, loan shares and, be 130, 150% overcounted on those numbers out there. But circling back around, and an interesting observation is I go to a lot of these conferences. So this year I've been to ETH Denver, Bitcoin Miami, and I just got back from Money 2020. And I think the most interesting observation, and I'd love to hear both of yours, kind of thoughts on this, is Ethereum Denver was like, and great job on the show, guys, but it was a shit show. It was, one booth is like, hey, we do KYC. The other booth is like, fuck that. We don't need any of this stuff. And so it was really like, there was no continuity of like moving in a direction. There was no like big players there that I would say were like, here's how we're going to solve these problems. It was just like, here's a booth that does wallets. And then here's 10 more booths that were copy pasting almost the exact same thing. On the very far side of that was I was just at Money 2020, and it was a lot of blockchain stuff. And these guys were very much going, we're adhering to traditional finance rules and regulations. We're using blockchain technologies, to institute blockchain finance. And then in the middle of this, you kind of had Bitcoin Miami, where it was really did feel like a merge of the two. Like, there's the guys in the suits and, presidential candidate Kennedy Jr. was there, but there was still like the wizards and running around in hats and onesie pajamas, to kind of throw a little bit of this in there. So I feel like there's a merging of these two coming, and they've centered around Bitcoin being kind of the best to lead the pack, because there is no face per se. That's, there's no Vitalik, and I'm not saying Vitalik's not done an amazing job to be showcasing what Ethereum and blockchain can do, but it's almost better that there's not one. What's your thoughts, pivoting right back to you on that, Josh?
So I'm actually interested at which days you went to ETH Denver, because a lot of people go for the 3-day event. I was there for 10 days. You did the coding thing before.
Yeah.
So I've actually loved ETH Denver this year, but I had a very different viewport to yourself. Assuming you went at the end, I'm assuming that's maybe what happened, because I do agree with some stuff you're saying. So I was there for everyone that doesn't know, who's listening in, there's this kind of 7 days where let's call it a hackathon. Hotels, the grounds are all open, where people from developers and crypto inventors all come together and build stuff. There's some of the greatest things that have come out of crypto have come from ETH Denver. So everyone's building, and then the last 3 days is more like a conference, like a trade show, etc. And you have, like we mentioned, Fireblocks were there. You have 1inch DeFi protocols. But yeah, I did say a lot of I don't want to name them to put them in bad light, but like you're saying, things that were very similar, a copy paste. Yeah, they've changed a few things, and there wasn't much continuity in that sense in terms of enterprise taking crypto forward. But in terms of actually building, there were big things happening. ZK was huge. It was all about ZK and layer twos. We had Arbitrum optimism happening, and then what was I going to say? Yeah, and EIP 3344, the account abstraction was happening. So Vitalik was talking about that, which again opens up adoption. You can use fingerprints and passwords instead of seed phrases, etc. Has its problems. The attack surface for wallets then becomes huge.
Yeah,
but that was cool. So we had like account abstraction. We had ZK coming. We had ETH Denver was very, 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 very cool for me. But yeah, at the end, it was. I thought. It's just a trade show.
I was there for those last 3 days.
And it was a bit out of place.
Looking for solutions to problems to implement, for businesses that are ready to use them today.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a bit out of place. That merge you were talking about, I think you said Bitcoin Miami. I wasn't there. That wasn't quite felt. I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, you go to a whole bunch of these.
Yeah, the way I kind of view this is like I try to put like some real world thinking like around like the problem like plus where we're at. I look at it a lot like, have you ever like done like ghost town tours where like people showed up, they basically got the resources and there was like they just exported it all out of the ground and then it was like, now what?
Yeah.
So a lot of what I'm seeing is we're slowly moving into these like ghost towns along the way. And now we've got to actually put some resources and put some actual practical things around the raw material that we're actually getting out of the ground. And by spinning up 27 other silver mines around the one that already exists, the one that exists is the winner. So what's the commerce around that you can actually provide for everyone to make the town boom? And so I get a lot of those vibes at all these where you hear basically the same conversation and it's very surface level, and nobody's really attacking like the larger problem, which is around adoption and how to actually bring this forward, like actually do something viable to make this an not only an asset class, but make this a line of thought that we can actually like usher into like the future. And so I think that what you're seeing is these conferences over time are gonna get better because those, like the dev stuff that happened before ETH Denver, slowly will trickle into the actual event at the end to like show this end-to-end thinking of like how does this at a full omni-channel, how does this actually work to keep the town alive? Not just like, I'm going to spin up the exact same thing that booth is doing, just call it something different and slap a label on it. And so I think a lot of the things that we should be striving in the space is not only like building our businesses and building our thesis, but looking at the overall thesis of what's going on and providing that to the end user. I think the end user gets left out of this all the time. That people are like, they're thinking about, we talked about like the greed level at the beginning. They look at like a way to monetize and make money in a new way. Well, that's great. I'm all for it. Go for it. But like, how are you actually building products and services for humans in the center that you need to bring, that need to hit out here where everybody else in the 10% of the world that understands it? How do you bring them there? And that's why you see the disconnect between the developer process and then the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey circus. And in the circus tent, you may not see people that understand what's going on in the dev tent. So we gotta combine the two so we can actually start building products and services that actually match the two.
You need this kind of this glue between, I think you said, the developers and the circus. That's basically what I am. And from sitting on the sidelines in TradFi, that's exactly what I was feeling. There weren't enough people like me embodying that position in the chain, right? And we have enough tech. We can do KYC with zero knowledge. It's there. We have DeFi and we have solutions to destroy fragmented liquidity. We have Layer Zero, Tapioca DAO, things like that. We have identification systems like ENS. We have self-custodial wallets. We have on and off ramps. They come and go, but that's the game of fintechs these days. You're constantly losing some, plugging new ones in. Put all that together, today we can all build the solution that works for everyone. Like literally, and that's actually what I do. So I'm trying to scream out, look, we can build these things. I'm building it. Other people can build it. The time is now. Let's just get it done. It's about adoption. Let's just do it.
I can't agree more violently with that statement.
Yep.
The last article that I'm going to bring us to, and I think it'll bring all these points home. There's a couple MasterCard stories. And so, again, that bridging of TradFi and blockchain, and I think what we're going to be seeing here very soon, and I'd love your guys' opinions on this. And just real quick, the two stories. One is MasterCard plans Web3 collaborations with self-custody wallets. And they're also teaming up with MoonPay to kind of be able to kind of manage some of these fiat on and off ramps and this. And I think the point is that we're going to see the technology disappear. We're going to see, this concept of these plug-in wallets, in your Chrome browser go away. We're going to see the concept of people really, worrying about what chain are we on, what server, what kind of, what bridges are being used. And those decisions are going to be made by people that are insured. They're working on it every single day that need to, it's okay. Like I'm okay to pay a small fee to make sure that if something happens, it's going to be given back to me, to have proper insurance. And so, we'll kind of go in a reverse order here for Adam and back to Josh. Do we see, a little bit more of the technology just slipping off into the background where only us true nerds are going to care about what chain it's on, what protocol does this, and really it's just going to be a very nice slick GUI on the front end by name brands like MasterCard that we already know.
Could be, but there's also players in this space that have like shown up, no relation. But there is a company out there, Fierce or Get Fierce. I think it's getfierce.com. They're actually attacking this very space you're talking about, where they're almost a neobank that like gives you like 5.25 back on your checking, but at the same time too makes it super easy to buy crypto. But they've built out the system and attacked this weird gray area where, how do I dip my toe in the water, learn and grow my money in a different way quicker than I would at a traditional bank? So what I see happening is a lot of this space, especially with like that product like Fierce has, you're going to see some of these traditional banks having to become more of a neobank. Because if you're going to compete with somebody that's out there given higher rates and a quicker way to learn and invest in these things, they're going to have to catch up to that part of the tech. Now, I do agree that no one's going to care, like, are you on Polygon? Are you on this? Are you on? Because no one asks you, hey, where do you host your website? Is it on GCP or is it on Amazon? Nobody cares. They just need the information. So for me, I don't really think that jumping up and down, talking about your blockchain and TPS and all that stuff, the average user doesn't care. What they want to know is, if I use this, will it do everything you say it's going to do? And are you protecting me as a consumer? And so those are the things that you're going to see. But I do see in traditional finance, they're going to have to like show up to the neobank table, because I'm telling you, younger buyers or younger people in the market, they don't look at JP Morgan Chase. They look at all these other options where it's like, oh, I can use this checking and I get paid like 2 days earlier. Like all those things, right? So yeah. I see a convergence of neobanking and like newer style trading meeting some of these MasterCards. Like they're a monolith, but they have to plug into this neobank cycle. Because I truly have a lot of giddy watching these guys pop up, because you know they're a thorn in the side of these bigger players and they're doing things at a faster rate. And to me, that's a good sign that like maybe a little bit of this push and pull is going to bring some of these stalwarts a little lower. And what's going to happen there? In that little gray area, innovation happens. We've been sitting on our hands like traditionally, like, oh, my 401k has got me covered. That's no longer the case. Like there are things and vehicles that we have to step into. And now is a great time. And I see my take is a little different. Like I said, I see these neobanks and the MasterCards of the world like getting closer, because you've got to attack that gray space where their innovation is. And that's basically the whole thesis of this podcast, right? Is attacking that area, right?
Yep. 100%. Josh, what's your thoughts?
I think great points from Adam. I'll echo a lot of them. Sort of thinking about 12 months ago, I would say the Visas and MasterCards of the world were rightly scared of this stuff, right? The actual this new infrastructure threatens everything that they do. Like at the ultimate sort of Web3 DeFi, on that long-term horizon, you wouldn't need a Visa or MasterCard. You don't need those intermediaries. You don't need the payments network. You'll literally have just blockchain and QR codes. You could have. So I think it's actually a necessity for them to come our way a bit, again, to step into that gray area Adam's talking about from, I'm going to say above, from being existing leaders, the old guard, if you wish. Yeah. They're having to come our way. But then I also think neobanks, what they have been for the past couple of years, haven't been what they should have been. They were, in my opinion, they have been sort of just traditional banks with a nice, sexy user interface and then some good customer service. And someone's going to go, hey, I'll pay $5, $7 a month to have this cool thing and a nice bright green or orange card. Whereas actually underneath, it's just the same stuff. And there's a story I always tell. I'll keep it abridged, but being British, we have Uber here. There's Uber in other countries. But preceding Uber, we had a company called Halo, like Halo Taxi, Halo Cab. And it was basically what I think neobanks have done. You could order black cabs, traditional cabs in London, and they just had a nice app where instead of phoning someone, you could just tap on a screen and find the nearest cab. Uber then came along and did a full stack redevelopment where they say, hey, look, not only can you book a taxi, but you can be a taxi. Similar to kind of like what blockchain is saying, be your own bank, but also use it at the bank. It's two ways. It's like a scratch your back, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's what neobanks they have to come upwards and go, right, it's self-custodial, DeFi liquidity, blah, 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 blah. That's what Exco is all about. Crypto first with, fiat rails, this Web 2.5 gray area that I think Adam was alluding to. That's kind of what I'm all about as well. So then, you've got MasterCard and Visas on the other side. And I think it's great that they're coming towards us. I don't really think they have a choice, to be honest. But
no, I agree.
We'll see.
The concept, I keep using is blockchain-based finance, and they have their own stacks. They can do a lot of things. The last point I want to make is we drive it home on this is I think that it's been decades since the piece of plastic was introduced to retail and to finance, and I don't think that's going to be something that goes away. And case in point, as someone who, I'm very much into cryptocurrencies and blockchain and everything else. I was just in Zurich and, climbed, was at a, kind of a stand, and I go, oh, I'd like a pretzel and a soda. It's like a $5 thing. And I can either use my credit card, or they had the scanner for, to pay in ETH or Bitcoin. And I literally said, there's no effing way I'm exposing my wallet to this this random stand, because, you want that layer of like, no one needs to know that I was here. No one needs to, I don't, and if I accidentally give too much, does the guy even know how to give it back to me? The credit card just kind of works. So the concept of being able to utilize this, like, there has to be, and that's the thing that blockchain does, is we just go, look, there's 100 steps in TradFi, and then blockchain goes like, we'll do that in 2 steps. And we're like, okay, what if we had like 10? So I think that we're seeing that merge back and forth of like, it's okay to have this as part of our tech stack, but we need to be a little bit more forthright about, consumer protections.
Yeah, not to get too philosophical, but the whole concept behind Visa was like, the guy was like, money isn't real, it's form, not function. He was like, you could take a piece of plastic and just slice, and swipe it, and then the next thing you know, you can get your goods. And everybody kind of thought that credit card journey was crazy. Like, that's not, you can't do that. And the idea there was like, money is an idea. And if I hold this piece of plastic with the idea of this money, there will be an exchange for that good and service in the background. And it will be used because consumers need ease and they need to be able to do things quickly. Fast forward in time, I can't remember where I viewed this, but I found it really interesting. They showed this like news reel of when Burger King introduced credit cards.
Yeah, I've seen it.
They're like, this is so stupid. Why would you even need to do this? I got cash in my pocket. Fast forward to me like 2 hours ago, I tapped my card real quick at the gas station and got gas. And it was just like, if Visa didn't say, this is dumb, we don't need to be fumbling for this paper to like do things, that it's an exchange for a thing, and let's do this quickly to get going. And then the Burger King scenario where everyone's like, I'm not getting my card out to swipe at some machine. That was a growing pain, but look where it got us. I just tapped and got gas in like 5 seconds. Yep. And that was new and old meeting. And there, you will always have resistance, because why? Humans are at the center of the problem, and humans like to muck up the works.
Yep. No, this has been a fabulous conversation, guys. I really appreciate the time. As we bring it to a close, Adam, where can people find you and learn more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, you can find us at tknevents.com. And from there, all the socials, white papers, and my speeches from Consensus. And then I did a whole speech at CoinDesk Ideas on IOB for ROI, Internet of Behavior for Return on Investment, which is detailing out the monetization of the data. Basically, everybody on this call is like the best employees for Amazon and Google. We just don't get paid. Everybody knows that story. Our goal is to pay you.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Data.
Josh, I'm actually going to be in London in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll meet up and have some tea.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, if they're not going to come surprise you in person, where can they find you to learn more about what you guys are working on?
Yeah, we're on X, Instagram, so xgo_official. You can find us there. If you want to know more about all these things I'm talking about, identity solutions, Web 2.5, I write some articles with Cointelegraph as well. There's a whole series over there. Otherwise, in terms of social media, I only have LinkedIn. I don't really exist on the internet. So yeah, happy to have conversations with anyone and everyone. Because like Adam said earlier, I'm really shouting to fight for this adoption. The solutions are there. The time is now.
Yeah.
Fabulous, guys. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time. And yWhales, take care. Talk soon.
Thank you.